it's working. Technology is going to work. So electro hypersensitivity, and R will be joining us in a second, is something that many people are starting to experience, and it can come in the form of headaches, fatigue, exhaustion. And all of this comes because we are living in this toxic soup that is electromagnetic fields that are all surrounding us. R is here. R is in the house. Hello.
Hi. Sorry, this is my first Instagram Live. I had no idea I had to do it on my phone. So
fine.
it does
Sorry,
not work on the desktop.
No.
Yeah.
You made it. You figured it out. This is
I
good.
did. I overcame all adversity. Thank you very much for having me.
Amazing. Well, thank you for the time and I mean your products, and we're going to get into all of that. And so just to give everybody a preamble of, we are doing these types of the series of events, of Instagram Lives with the sponsors of our retreat. So Natalie and I are hosting a retreat down in Dominican Republic, where I live, where I am, hence the glisten and the tank top. And this retreat, it's a longevity and resilience retreat, and we have curated specific companies that we like, we work with, we give to our clients, we use ourselves, right? This is not just, oh, we're going to get a whole bunch of people. No, we actually use these products. And when Nat, you and I were talking about what is longevity and resilience, part of it is how do we shield ourselves and make sure that our cells and our bodies are feeling good given the environment that's around us. And so when we think about the environment, people often think, oh, well, okay, it's just the foods that I'm putting inside me. But in truth, we really need to think about mold. We need to think about electromagnetic fields, which is coming around us, and potentially, especially if we're living in cities, especially if we're in apartment buildings with a lot of people, we are going to be surrounded and inundated by these invisible forces that may be the cause of a lot of different health issues. So R is an incredible resource, and he has this company called Shield Your Body, which creates which creates products to help shield us. So Natalie, maybe you can give us an intro to R, or R, you can give us an intro yourself as well, and then we can get into our questions.
Sure.
I think I'm going to let R introduce himself. He'll do a way better job than I will.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, my name is R Blank, and I run Shield Your Body, and we do a couple of things at Shield Your Body. One is we make a catalog of laboratory tested EMF shielding products, and the other is a lot of education. So we have on the website, we have hundreds of articles, we have a dozen ebooks, we have a bunch of educational videos, we run webinars, we do a lot of free education at Shield Your Body. And all of it, the products and the education are about how to live healthier with less exposure to EMF radiation. Because there's a lot of things you can do without buying anything. And then there's, products that can help you reduce your exposure and live healthier. I guess, one place I'd like to start, because I don't know exactly who your audience is, but, a lot of times when this issue is covered, it is covered as a debate or an uncertainty. So I want to say very clearly that this is a completely non-controversial concept that EMF radiation causes damage to the body. And the reason I can say that with certainty is because that's the entire reason that cell phone radiation standards exist, is because even the government thinks and believes that EMF radiation of this type can cause damage to your body. And the problem there is that the regulations are insufficient. So since they've been developed, and even honestly before that, but especially since then, science has shown these health effects happening at levels much, much lower than what are permitted by these safety standards. So, and I just feel like that's a really important point to get out there. This is not a controversy. This is not a debate. This is universally accepted science, because that's why these regulations exist in the first place. Now, unfortunately, there's all sorts of other exposures in our life that aren't regulated. And one example I cite a lot is power lines. Power lines have been linked to a lot of negative health effects. And I'm not talking about living under high voltage tension wires. I'm talking about the stuff that runs to your house. And cars are another one where at least as far as I've been able to tell, and I put work into it, and I've had my team put work into it, and I've talked to experts, I have not been able to identify any EMF regulations for cars. So these are like two examples of glaring holes in the regulatory framework. So, but that's my intro to me and the topic. I don't know if you guys want to ask me a question or if I should just keep ranting.
Oh no, we have questions.
Okay, cool.
So one thing that you didn't mention that I want to mention to anybody listening is you are the co-author and the son of Martin Blank, who wrote the book Overpowered, right?
That is correct.
Incredible resource, incredible book. If you are interested in exploring this topic more about EMFs after our conversation, run to Amazon, go get this book, because it's what I love about it is that it's written in a way that doesn't make you petrified and freaked out, right? And it explains the science. So that's the book. Go get it. It's incredible. It was one of my first resources into understanding EMFs, because I didn't understand what these symptoms of electro hypersensitivity, which is what I have, what they were, and whether I was just going crazy. So thank you also for your work and
thank you. It was also my introduction to this topic too. That's how I learned all about that, was by writing that with my dad. And it was that whole process. Well, not only inspired me to create what became Shield Your Body, but it really hit home how strong the science is, because the whole thing is an exploration. It doesn't cover. We're talking about thousands of studies. We're not going to cover thousands of studies in this book. But the science is incredibly strong on a whole wide range of both exposures and negative health outcomes. But then when you're going through this process and you learn that, you realize the sources are things that define modern society. And so there's like with tobacco, you can regulate that out of existence, and it hasn't fully happened, but basically that's what's happened. But you can't do that with EMF. There's no regulating it out of existence. There's ways of using technology more safely, and safety standards could be stronger and should be stronger. But we're not talking about hopefully returning to a zero EMF world. That's not the goal. It's totally impossible.
Yeah. And so this is a good segue in terms of our first question. We have 5 questions that we typically ask every guest. So the first question is just, and you alluded to it, of you started writing this book with your father, and then you decided, let's create this company called Shield Your Body. So what was this idea of creating the products within this company?
Sure.
What was the origin story, if you will?
Yeah. So it's those two things that I just said, right? Where the science is incredibly strong, and there's no living without this stuff, right? You can't. Off of anything that runs on power, anything that communicates wirelessly. So that includes, like I said, power lines and appliances. It includes cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and so forth. Now, there was a certain amount of EMF in nature, and really that we're really talking about just what comes from the sun and other cosmic sources. It's called cosmic radiation, and that's really the big source. I mean, the Earth also has a weak magnetic field. And you can also get EMF off of lightning bolts and so forth. But really, we're talking about cosmic radiation from the sun and other celestial sources. And the reason I say that is because all of the forms that I'm talking about here, with power lines and Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff, that did not exist on the planet until the second half of the 19th century, with the invention of the light bulb, and then the power lines, and then more appliances, and then we got radio and TV and radar and all this kind of stuff. So until about more or less 1850, these forces did not exist on, and that means that of human evolution, that's the entirety of all evolution, of these forces did not exist. And since they were more of the planet gets electrified, we run more and more appliances on the grid, and the wireless networks just keep exploding. And so there's more today than there was a week ago. There's way more today than there was 10 years ago. There's way more today than when I was growing up, right? So I say that as a little bit of context for people to understand just how much of this stuff there is and just how little of human history these forces have been around. So the science is really strong, but these sources are everywhere and they define modern society, right? There's just no going back. Everything we do depends on something that emits EMF. And so I realized there had to be safe. That's when I started researching EMF for a long time because, well, first off, it goes back almost 200 years to when Michael Faraday invented the Faraday cage. And what he showed is if you weave conductive metals into certain patterns, you can block and deflect EMF radiation in the other direction. But it's been used a lot, ironically, right, to protect sensitive electronic equipment, right? So, processors and microchips and circuitry, these can all be interfered with by EMF. And so you get a lot of shielding. For a long time, we were protecting equipment, but not ourselves. But we take the same technology and we can put it into, like you held up the phone pouch earlier, the back of the phone pouch has that same technology in it. And so when you're carrying your phone on your belt or in your pocket, it deflects it in the other way, in the other direction, away from your body. So I realized there had to be safer ways to use this stuff, and that's where Shield Your Body products, but we also have education. There's a lot of stuff that people can do to reduce their exposures without buying anything and without making substantial changes to their habits or their use and value derived from technology. And sorry, give me 1 second here, because I really thank you, Nat, for starting that. And I can give you guys an exclusive here because this hasn't gone live yet. We're doing it next week. But we have, the new Pouch Deluxe.
Oh, nice.
You showed the pouch, and then you showed the sling bag, which I love. Mine, it's in pretty bad shape because I use it so much, but I use it all the time. But this is kind of halfway in between, right? So as phones have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and you also want to carry more than just your phone a lot of the times, your wallet, your keys, whatever it might be. So it's a bigger pouch. The back, just like the regular phone pouch, the back is shielded, the front isn't. That's what allows your phone to keep working, even when it's in it, but deflecting radiation away from you. It has 2 compartments. It has this nice flap with a zipper, so you can use that or not. It closes with a magnet. And you can carry it a few ways, right? It has a crossbody strap, so you can just carry it like this. It has a carabiner, so you can attach it to a belt hoop or another bag, and it has a belt hoop like the phone pouch, except it's a Velcro, so it's easier to put on and off the belt. So, and this is launching next week, so this isn't even available yet. This is the first time I'm even talking about it, so you got me excited. Yeah. So that was my answer to your question.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think I love about your work is this whole very pragmatic attitude that, look, these things are around, we got to learn to live with them. And you have this hierarchy of solutions that you present to people, starting with, here's the free stuff you can do, like the regular, this is the day-to-day stuff that you can do. And then if we want to elevate it, and now, there are solutions you have to pay for, but that can really just allow you to live your life without, people calling you a tinfoil hat wearing crazy person, which my son once did, which got him a massive lecture. But, you know, so that people can just live in society like they should. But I wanted to, you know, speaking a bit to Dasha about her electrosensitivities. Do you have stories yourself of customers that, or people that you know who've implemented some of these lifestyle strategies or bought some of the products that you sell that got back to you and said, oh my God, this made such a difference for me? Like, I'm guessing you've got like a binder full of these stories, but is there anything that stands out to you that you could share with us?
One example I'll give, just to start off with the education side, the number of people who, and one of them, it's not the first one is not to carry your phone in your pocket. We can talk about that later. One of the top tips is to turn off your Wi-Fi at night. And that is the one where we get the most feedback from people, that basically the same night they feel different. They have better sleep by turning off their Wi-Fi router at night. And they realize, wow, that was happening to me for years, and I didn't even. And he answered that when he started turning off his Wi-Fi at night, he was getting 15 more minutes of deep sleep every night. And so that he was able to like see, measured with a device, the actual improvement in his sleep by turning off his Wi-Fi at night. And so that's a really big one. And that's one where people see or feel the difference almost immediately. So if you're listening to this and you want to try something, that's the thing you should try, is turn off your Wi-Fi at night, and you'll see the difference. In terms of people who are electrically sensitive, I mean, that's really, it's a really depressing sort of situation, right? Because like I said, you can't get rid of this. Like, so let me step back and explain what this condition is, right? So it's often called EHS, or Electro Hypersensitivity. And people who have EHS will react with, for lack of a better term, allergic reactions to exposures that other people don't even feel, right? So I can walk into a room and be fully functional and not have pain, and someone with EHS can walk into that room, and depending on how bad their condition is, they could have mild discomfort, they could get rashes, they could get migraines, and it can go all the way up to being really debilitating, where people effectively leave society to live in remote areas, and because they're in so much pain. And what makes it even more distressing is that so many people don't believe it. They think it is a mental condition. And so that compounds the damage to their lives, because they're being told they're crazy as they are feeling these symptoms. And so, in my opinion, in terms of how widespread this is, there's not good numbers, right? So there's estimates ranging from anywhere from, let's say, 10% up to 35% of populations. There was one survey in Japan that had that higher number. My personal belief is that more people have it than realize they have it, because so many of the symptoms can be written off as other things, right? So one of the common symptoms is anxiety. Anxiety is out of control these days. Now, I'm not saying EMF is the only source of it, but if EMF is a trigger for you to have anxiety, and you're having anxiety, you may not even think that EMF is a trigger for it, and so you wouldn't think to say, your symptoms aren't being triggered now. They could be in a year or in 5 years, because the levels that you're being exposed to are going up and up and up and up. So my belief is that more people have it than know it, and more people will have it tomorrow than today. And it's just a really serious situation. Now, for those people who are electrically sensitive, one of the products, and this product is not for everybody, because it's I try really hard to do affordable products, but for the product I'm about to tell you about, it costs a lot to make, but it is a EMF bed canopy, and it comes in multiple sizes, so
Yeah.
twin, queen, and king, and it forms a full shield around your bed, and under it too. It comes with floor mats, so you can form a full shield. And that product, it brings so much relief to people. And obviously, if they're going to spend that money on that product, they really need relief. And it works so effective, because it's very hard to know EMF protection that just gets rid of EMF, right? So the phone pouch will deflect radiation away from you, but it leaves from your phone, but it leaves the rest of you uncovered. If you wear, I should have had more of my stuff handy here, but if you wear like my baseball cap, that'll protect your head. And to fully shield your house is incredibly difficult and expensive. So the canopy is a way to give you this full shielding effect around your bed, which isn't your whole house, and it isn't your whole important hours, right? Because you're supposed to be resting, rejuvenating, preparing, healing, and preparing for the next day. So the canopy is one where when people buy it and they install it, they can feel like intense and immediate relief.
Hmm.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey there, did we lose?
Okay.
Did we lose you?
I
Or
wonder if your house is so well shielded, or that your connection's a little bit weak, because unfortunately you're cutting out quite a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Give me a second here. Let's try. I'm gonna do.
Is it- Just in Natalie, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Just as we wait for Art, I just want to provide a kind of my own story, I suppose, in terms of electro hypersensitivity. This is one of those things, exactly what he mentioned. It's debilitating, and it changes per person. So for me, my symptoms as they come up is I have.
Back. Yeah.
Hey, R.
I
He's
switched
back.
connections. I'm not at
Oh,
home actually, so I apologize. This is an Airbnb. I'm on the road.
Nice. I was just going to provide a little bit of an N of one, my own personal story, because like you said about electro hypersensitivity, it's debilitating. And in my case, I started feeling just tingles up and down my arm as I was typing on my computer. And I thought, okay, this is what's wrong with my computer, right? And then it grew and it progressed to the extent that I had to leave London because it was so intense, and I had such headaches. And so for now, I've implemented a lot of these changes, and they impact me beautifully, right? I don't sleep with my phone next to me. We turn off the Wi-Fi. Anytime that I fly, I'd make sure that I'm in the back of the plane or in the back of a section, so that I don't have one of those computer screens in my head, right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
that is so close to this noggin, this thing that I'm trying to protect. And yet there is, every time I fly, and Natalie, you've seen this, for about 2 days afterwards, I will have a headache, right? Because I've gone through the security, I've been around, the cosmic rays that are higher up when we fly are worse, right?
Yep.
Every single person who flies typically has 2 to 3 on average devices on them. And we have all those screens in the airplanes. So it is something that it seems completely woo-woo potentially, and yet if you start digging further into it, reading some of these books, looking into what the symptoms of electro hypersensitivity are, it could open some doors for you of maybe that anxiety is related to me always being surrounded by these devices, right? Because they're dehydrating us. They are causing cellular damage, right? So I mean, just as an N of one, because I think that sometimes when people think about this, it sounds extremely crazy and woo-woo. And I, for one, am a person who has this and lives with this. And I'm not planning, Over talks a lot about this, and it was incredible. I spoke with her on how she had to completely change her life, and it is something where hopefully you can catch it early enough that you don't have to go out and live in the boonies and live in the middle of nowhere. You can do some of these habit changes so that you can distance yourself, which is one of the best ways to protect yourself from EMFs.
Yeah, distance is
So,
definitely your friend.
Yeah, and Natalie, we can go back to our scheduled questions, but I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, these are all great points, right? And ultimately, in a way, reducing your exposure to EMF and allowing that lowering, because everybody's got their threshold, right? So if you've got symptoms that you just can't seem to resolve, anything you can do to lower your load, it's low-hanging fruit in looking for what are different ways that I can, what are different strategies I can use to help me to feel better and to respond better to my environment and to exist in it. So anyway, so another question that we had for you is, you know, there's a lot of these products on the market, and you know, I think one of the questions we like to ask our guests is what makes your products different, but maybe, you know, what makes your products different, and what should people be looking for when they're shopping for products that help them to deal with EMF in general?
Yeah, so I love this question, and I talk a lot about it. And I'm just going to preface what I'm about to say by saying I'm not the only one who makes good products, but not everything that's sold as EMF protection is EMF protection.
Yeah.
And if you Google, right, just EMF protection, you'll find all sorts of stuff. You know, pendants and harmonizers and neutralizers. So the stuff that I make at Shield Your Body is all shielding, which means based on universally accepted science, and it's testable and measurable. So we have independent laboratory testing on every shielding product that we sell, and I've written a free guide that anyone can come to my website and get, but especially customers, I hope, on how to test EMF, so that I encourage my customers to verify my product claims for themselves in their homes or wherever they're using my products with a decent quality EMF meter. So the fact that my products are based on real established science, and all my product claims are validated by labs, and I encourage customers to validate them for themselves, I think is a key point of differentiation from a lot of what you would find out there in the world of EMF protection. And I really want to encourage people. I have a whole video, which maybe I can find the link and send it to you, but it's about how to evaluate EMF protection product claims. And so, like, the first thing is figure out what are they even claiming, because if you go to a lot of these sites, they'll say it'll fix the EMF problem. They'll use some words that basically mean it'll make EMF not a problem for you, and those aren't real product claims, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to look at what they're claiming, and then you've got to look at what evidence they have to support their claims, because unfortunately the EMF space has a lot of stuff of dubious value, and that's not to say that stuff without testable science behind it doesn't work. Like, I know a lot of people who tell me their shungite beads work and have helped relieve a problem, and you know, if that's you, they're helping you, then great, do it. So just because something doesn't have science to support it doesn't mean it doesn't work, but it does mean that you can't know it's going to work. And so if it's working for you, then great, keep doing it. But that's not what I spend my time working on, and it's not what I can encourage people to put their money into.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great answer. I love it. Thank you. Well, it's so important. I mean, even just knowing what questions to ask or what things to look for is critical. And I think, you know, it's one of the many things I love about you and your work is that you spend so much time educating people about how to educate themselves, right? So it's not just about buy this, that, or the other thing. It's here's what we do, here's what you're looking for, here are the questions to ask, here's how to educate yourself so that, you know, you can decide and find the best solutions that are going to help you. Sorry, Dasha.
And so if people, And so if people really want to understand more about, again, about the science and about what to do, it's either go read the book or get some free resources on shieldyyourbody.com. So in terms of your product, just to make it very clear. So if I'm thinking about this one, right, it's that this component, this back, so if this is for the cell phone. So I'm putting the cell phone in here. It's that you're saying that this back component of it has some shielding fabric, correct? And what is that fabric made of?
Sure. And by the way, I can't see you. I can only see Nat. So I'm assuming you're talking about my phone pouch.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that's what
She's holding up the phone pouch. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yes, in the phone pouch and in a lot of, so the phone pouch, the Pouch Deluxe, it's made with the same material. The sling bag that Nat held up earlier, those all share the same material. It's in a few other of my products too. That is like you said, it's a shielding fabric, and it is a polyester that's woven with nickel cobalt alloy. So the nickel cobalt is the material that provides the shielding effect. And it has, it's been laboratory tested up to 26 gigahertz, which is well into the 5G spectrum. It's higher than any of the current 5G deployments in the United States. So, and again, the way it works, like it works just like a Faraday cage, right? So this isn't like woo-woo stuff. This is like you can measure it with a meter. When you weave these types of materials, these conductive metals into certain patterns, you can block and deflect radiation in the other direction. And so in the pouch that you held up and several other of my products, it's that polyester nickel cobalt fabric. In my apparel products and in my canopies, we don't use that. We use silver-based shielding fabrics because of the antimicrobial and hypoallergenic properties, right? So in products like these, the shielding fabric never comes into contact with the human body. And so we can use other types of materials, but with the apparel and the canopies, we use silver-based. So that includes the baby beanies, the baby blanket, the baseball cap, the neck gaiter, all of the bandana. All of these products have silver as the shielding component.
Nice, nice. And that's a great segue into the next question, which you talked about the baby beanies and the baby, the blankets and things like that. Can you touch, because WealthCo stands for Women's Health Community. So it's all about females and female health. Can you talk to us about potentially some of the harms that we've seen that have been studied about EMF for women and for children in specific?
Yeah, sure. Well, so a lot of these health risks and health impacts are unfortunately universal. As studies that pertain more particularly to women that I'm aware of, and there may well be more, but are about pregnancy, and this ties into the children part of your question too, right? Because the younger you are, the more vulnerable you are to damage from these forces, and there's a variety of physiological reasons why that's true. But one example is, the younger you are, the faster you're growing. And that literally means cells multiplying. And so any damage to a cell will spread much more than if you're growing more slowly, like when you're older. And of course, you have, hopefully, fingers crossed, longer to live when you're younger, which means there's more time for the damage to have its impact on your body. So that means, teens are more vulnerable than adults, children more vulnerable than teens, babies more vulnerable than children, and most vulnerable of all are fetuses. And so there's some very strong research on the negative impacts of EMF exposure in the womb. For instance, there's one study out of Kaiser Permanente that shows that women who had higher EMF exposure while they were pregnant faced a 2.72 times greater risk of miscarriage, which that's a big big concern. Obviously, that's a really serious outcome. But even when you hopefully don't lose the baby, there's other studies showing that there's higher risks of birth defects, and I'm talking about types of birth defects that may not even manifest for 10 or 15 years. So things like the more EMF you're exposed to in the womb, the greater your chance of developing asthma. the greater your chance of forming ADHD. So I mean, the way this works is essentially we find these health effects in every almost every biological system in which we seek them out. And it's because the mechanisms at which EMF has these impacts are so fundamental, right? I mean, there's a lot of science on how EMF impacts DNA. DNA is in every cell of every living thing on the planet. So it's in our brains, it's in our blood, it's in our liver, and it's in the trees outside. And so we see these negative health outcomes. And so when you're first coming to this topic, especially if maybe you're not so inclined to believe it, and you see like, oh, EMF does everything bad. Like, it sounds crazy, except it's unfortunately true. So that's why we can see, and everyone's physiologies are so unique, and their diets are different, their health risks are different. So it can manifest, and all of our exposures are different. It can manifest in so many different ways in so many different people. And so, but with women, like I said, the strongest and most concerning science I am aware of that's particular to women has to do with pregnancy, and that's why it's so important to take those precautions when you are pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as an example, I'll just give one more example, and then I feel like I'm ranting a little. I'll give one more example, which is, they tell pregnant women not to use microwave ovens, right? There's a reason. Like, if you read the manual, that's a disclaimer in there. There's a reason for that, right? Because they know that these forces can really harm fetuses.
Yeah.
And yet you put your milk, right? Your breastfeeding milk, you put it into the microwave.
Well, there's many levels at which that does not apply to me, but I don't have a microwave, and I don't generate breast milk, so.
There was one study, just put aside, there was one study that was out there of women who were using or putting their cell phones into their bras.
Oh,
so when they go out, let's say they'll put it right there, and it's an easy pocket, right? And yet what they ended up finding is that there was cancerous cells that were being formed in the shape of the cell phone.
The phone, yeah. That is one of the cancer connections that, in my opinion, and there might be stuff I'm not aware of, because there's so much, I'm not a scientist. It's not my full-time job to be on top of the science, but I read a lot of it. There's strong links to multiple types of cancer, and it makes sense that there would be a strong link to breast cancer, but in my opinion, that is an under-investigated area. So going back earlier, I referenced turning off your Wi-Fi at night. That's not the top tip I give people. The top tip I give people is to never carry your phone in your pocket or your bra, because, as we said earlier, the distance is your friend. The further away you are from the source of the EMF, it makes a huge difference in the power of your exposure. And when you're carrying your phone directly adjacent to your body, you are getting the full dose of what it has to offer. It is a lot, right? I mean, we could talk about how regulations are insufficient. We could talk about how a lot of phones exceed what they say there's all sorts of, even if you look outside and you see 5 cell towers and you turn on your Wi-Fi and you see 30 networks and you're like, oh my God, there's so much EMF. Even for those people, if you are carrying your phone in your pocket or your bra, odds are good that is one of your biggest, if not your single biggest source of your personal exposure, because of the characteristics that I was talking about. And again, it tends not to be, you don't just carry it there for 5 minutes, right? People who carry it there carry it there for hours or all day and every day. And so it really adds up. And so, yes, I strongly advocate that people don't carry it in your pocket or your bra, or put it into airplane mode when you do.
Yeah, at the very least, or stick it in a shield.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a perpetual battle that I have with my husband and my son. I'll look over and I'm like, take your phone out of your pocket. And now they apologize, but I'm like, stop apologizing and stop doing it. Like, it absolutely tries. It's like smoking. Like, this is a modifiable behavior, and it's easier than stopping smoking, frankly, because, you know, people are addicted to nicotine. You are not addicted to cell phone radiation
Yeah,
on your body
you're
parts.
addicted to your phone, but you're not addicted to the
You're addicted to
radiation
your
from your
phone.
phone.
Yeah, but not to the radiation, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even seen women wearing headscarves with their phone attached to their heads, and I personally find it heartbreaking, because it's a hard conversation to have with a stranger, and yet you want to stop them on the street and say, "Oh my God, do you know what you're doing to yourself?"
That and the air tubes. The air tubes, now I see people and I will stop them. You know,
No, you mean the AirPods.
You mean AirPods?
Or whatever,
Yeah.
AirPods.
Yeah,
Not air
the
tubes.
AirPods.
When you know how sometimes when people are in the, people have a pet peeve of like the little tags sticking out of people's shirts,
Yeah.
and they come up to them and like to fix them. Now
Yeah.
my pet peeve is to see those AirPods, and I'll come up to people like, listen, you know you're frying your brain. Let's talk.
I just
Like, even if they're not listening to anything or talking on the phone, they have it in just so they can pretend they're on Star Trek when they get a call and go, doop, you know, oh, you know, I'm living in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah,
all of
absolutely.
these passive exposures. And people, to me, this is a really good example of to communicate to people that, you know, they didn't test what doing that for 10 years does to you before releasing it to the public, right? We are the guinea pigs to learn, or, well, you and I aren't, but the people who buy this stuff are the guinea pigs, and we'll learn from them what impact this has in 10 and 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll be some sad results, I'm sure. Okay, so I mean, really indirectly, you've been talking about this next question all along. So what I love about this question is it kind of helps us to bring the podcast, the Instagram, this is kind of like a podcast, to bring the interview to a close and really kind of bring your message home. And that is, you know, how does your product, and I'm going to include education in your product, because that's as much your product as anything that you sell. How does your product support longevity and resilience? And, you know, I feel we should ask the audience. You've given them 10 different ways already. But
Yeah, by reducing your exposure, you are improving your health. There's no question. I mean, again, if you turn on the news, you might hear it kind of muddied. There is no question that reducing your exposure improves your health. It will improve it in numerous different ways. And a lot of this stuff can improve almost overnight. Like, not everything, right? Certain things, certain health conditions take time to really heal from. But I'll give examples. One I already gave, which is turning off your Wi-Fi at night. People who do that, most of them feel the difference on the first night. Not carrying your phone in your pocket. For men who do this, you can measure their sperm, because sperm is regenerated every 24 hours. You can measure that your sperm count improves the next day if you stop carrying your phone in your pocket. So these things that you can do can have and those are just examples. There are things that you can do that have a real and immediate impact, and then the benefit compounds over years and decades. And we are exposed to so much of this radiation, and there's no getting rid of it. It's really this process that I advocate, which is just continuing to look for ways where you can cut out the stupid exposures, the things that add no value to your life, or the things that are easily replaceable. Because again, you know, zero EMF, it's not a realistic goal, and it's not worth stressing over. But there's all of these ways that you can, and you'll learn it when you start practicing it, all of these ways that you can really make huge differences in your exposure without changing your enjoyment of life or technology.
love it. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great answer, and 100% agree. I mean, even just like the low-hanging fruit, right? It makes it better. And actually, you know, there's one product that you have that, again, it's another one that is so powerful, it's so easy to use, and it solves a bunch of different problems. Like for people who work with their computer in their lap, and your computer will heat up and heat up your legs. Well, you know, bad news, it's more than heat that's hitting your body. But what you have is this beautiful black, very thin pad that blocks the EMF from coming through whether it's your desk, because even if you put your computer on your desk, with the pad underneath it, or you have the pad on your lap. And what I love about this pad is that it's portable. Like you can travel with it because it just slides into your suitcase. Nobody knows it's there. But it's one of these strategies that's so simple. It makes it more comfortable for you anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's better anyway. It feels better. It gives you a hard surface, and it solves a problem all at the same time. So we have like a whole bunch of them in the house floating around for different people.
Thank you. Yeah, and anyone who's listening or watching, all of my products are available, and all of my education are also available at shieldyourbody.com. And my podcast, which Nat has been on, although that episode didn't come out yet. Anyway, yeah,
Not yet.
It's coming out soon. Is at healthiertech.co. So it's the Healthier Tech podcast where we talk about EMF, but we talk about a whole lot of other things related to a healthier approach to technology.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great episode. I can't wait till it's out.
Amazing.
Conversation.
We're just about on time, up with time, but there was one question, that came through, which was, are there any plans to make a night PJ outfit type agent that you can wear for sleep? And we have, Nat and I know of a company that is already making something similar, and we would love to introduce you to them.
Yeah,
Sure.
There's
It
this
might be a
EMF
nice
shielding.
little,
Yeah.
it might be a nice
Okay.
little combination.
Yeah, no, we're always looking for not looking, we're always developing new products. So we have several in development now. Some are apparel. The apparel, it's very useful, very important stuff. The market for the apparel is just much lower because you have to use the silver, right? Not you have to use the silver materials, which is it's literally a precious metal, and then you have to use a lot of it in order to get a nice big piece of apparel, and so you end up with underwear. Like my underwear costs $90 a pair, and so it's important, and I'm glad we do it. But the market for apparel is just at the current cost structure. The market for apparel is just smaller than it is for instance, pouches and laptop pads and air tubes and other types of products that we're working on. So, but we are working on several pieces of apparel. I hope that you will be able to start seeing them next year.
Good. Amazing. I want a hoodie for the plane, please. And thank you.
Okay.
Me too. Especially for the plane. The planes are the worst. That's the time where I get my most horrible headaches.
Oh, yeah. Right, Dasha, I told you already, we just launched a new course, the Fly Healthier course. So we have, in addition to products, we now have e-learning. Kathy Cook, who's our in-house EMF specialist, but she's a certified building biologist and a certified holistic nutritionist. She's put together a course on all the things you can do in order to be healthier while traveling, flying and traveling. And that includes nutrition and prep work, 3 weeks in advance, and she goes step by step through the flight and then the day after recovery, and it's really great content.
Amazing.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank you
much,
both so much for having me. This has been a blast. This is my first IG Live, so it's a whole new horizon for me. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time and for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks again. And guys, please go to check out Shield Your Body. Go read the book. Go check out ours podcast as well. And if you are interested in even trying some of the products, we have Nat's retreat, and then we have some other retreats coming up. So come on down and spread this message also to more people. So if you enjoy this conversation, please share this so that more people can learn about it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Super. Have a good day,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.